Welcome back with a smiling face. Important note before starting, if you are a fan of audio stories, then our Patreon account is the best platform for you. Join us on Patreon for the best audiobooks ever. His Revenge. Synopsis. Aelia and Liam find themselves dealing with all new struggles as they settle into their married life. Liam thinks he is managing things well until a prisoner is killed in cold blood with no suspect in sight. Things spin out of control for Liam. Aelia faces complications in her pregnancy. Missy pushes the boundaries of her adopted parents. Rogue issues increase. It isn't long before Liam is faced with a no-win decision that will cost someone their life. This is the second book. Book 1 is Redeeming Himself. Chapter 1-8. Missy I stood on the edge of the party on the pack house's back lawn. It was Lee's birthday, so Liam of course was throwing her a big bash. Most of the pack was here. Lee and Lily were sitting at a table on the small stage with Felix standing by as always. I swear that guy was everywhere. I tapped my foot impatiently, checking my phone again. V was late. He promised he would be here to save me. I loved Lee and Liam like my real parents, but I was tired of being the adopted alpha kid. I would never be alpha, know that responsibility would go to Junior. But there were still so many expectations and unending gossip. V was different though. He and his dad just joined the pack 2 years ago and he didn't care about all that stuff. He didn't treat me like an alpha kid or care about the gossip. He was cool and down to earth. I checked my phone again. No text, no call. Where was he? The popular girls walked by, together in their little clique. I didn't fail to notice their giggles and side glances. I rolled my eyes and turned to walk away. I walked towards the tree line. Maybe I would go for a run instead of waiting for Vlad. Letting my wolf out and letting her take control for a couple hours seemed like a great escape. My phone dinged as I got close to the tree line. I looked at it hopefully only to see a text from Liam. Where did you go? It's time to sing. I sighed. I know Liam and Lee didn't deserve my attitude, but I couldn't help it. Being me was suffocating sometimes. Now that baby number 3 was on its way, that is all the pack could talk about. That and how if this one was a girl that Liam and Lee wouldn't care about me anymore. As much as I tried to ignore the hateful rumors, it wasn't always easy. I stopped a few yards into the tree line. I buried my phone in my pocket and started to undress. There was movement from the forest stopping me. I looked around, trying to see the source. Someone was walking towards me. The familiar silhouette came into view and I smiled. You didn't want to wait for me, he said fondly. You couldn't even text me that you were going to be late. I said irritated. Sorry. My dad held me up. But I am here now, he said. He stopped about a foot away from me. Want to get out of here? That is what I was just about to do, I said. Come on. Forget shifting. Let's go somewhere, he said. I sighed. My wolf was excited to be getting out. I was so sure that Vlad was going to be my mate. He was absolutely perfect in almost every way. In a few months' time, we would know too. My wolf wasn't as sure. For some reason, he didn't like shifting. He mentioned it had something to do with their old pack, but he never explained it further. All right, let's go, I said. He held out his hand. I grabbed it and we headed towards his car. Aelia. Liam texted Missy but got no reply. I am sorry, little Luna. She isn't answering and I can't link her. I think her block is up, he said tenderly. I rubbed his arm soothingly. It's okay. She seemed upset earlier, I told him. That is no excuse. She should be here, he said. He was agitated now. He and Missy had been at odds lately over her boyfriend, Vlad. I hadn't seen him around the party yet, although I probably wasn't the best frame of reference as I have not been allowed to leave my chair. Liam's uncle, Dr. Ron, had put me on light duty with the pregnancy progressing and Liam was taking it very seriously. Last night he had stopped me from helping Leo pick up his toys because I was bending too much. Let's just cut the cake, I said. It is really okay. He gave me a sad look. I knew he was trying so hard to make me happy, he always did. Junior came over with tears in his eyes. What is wrong, sweetheart? I asked, concerned. What happened to my boy? Liam said, scooping him so I couldn't. Delilah tripped me, he sniffled. He pointed to his knee that was scraped up pretty bad. Poor thing hated blood. The smallest cuts were the end of the world. Why did she do that? Liam asked him gently. We were playing and I won the game. Lucas teased her for losing and she got mad, he said. Junior, was it maybe an accident? I asked him. He just shrugged his shoulders. Let's go clean this knee up, Liam said. We can sing to Mommy when we are done. He gave me a sympathetic look before leaving with Junior. I sighed as they left. I looked across the yard where Damien was talking to an angry Delilah. She was stomping her foot as she angrily explained something to him. She was the biggest daddy's girl and Damien was absolute putty in her hands. He and Liam were amazing fathers. Lily and I really had hit the jackpot with mates. Lily was walking towards me rolling her eyes. Some days, these kids really test my patience, she said. I laughed at that in total agreement. Who lost this time? I asked her. I think Delilah and Leo. She is over there complaining to Damien about how it was unfair, and someone cheated, she said. When Liam gets back, he wants to do cake, I told her. That'll calm the kids down temporarily, she said. Damien came over with Delilah on his back. Where did Liam go? He asked. Went to get a band-aid for Junior. How's Delilah? I asked. She is fine, he said. Liam finally joined us and called the pack to attention. The whole pack sang happy birthday, then we cut the cake and passed it out. Even though it was my favorite flavor and looked delicious, as soon as a piece was placed in front of me, the smell made me nauseous. I tried to hide it, but Liam knew better. He rubbed my back soothingly, apologizing. Liam, you couldn't have known. It's okay, I told him. Let's just wrap this up and go to bed, I told him. I wanted a little one-on-one time with him after we got the kids to bed. Have you seen Missy? I asked him. He gave me a guilty look. No. Maybe we should send out a few warriors to look for her, he trailed off. I knew he was probably linking whoever oversaw patrol for tonight. I turned around to Felix, who still never left my side. Have you seen her since the party started? I asked. He nodded. She went towards the woods maybe 45 minutes ago, he said. Liam, I said, trying to grab his attention. Maybe she went for a run. Felix saw her go towards the woods. He sighed and looked at me. Okay. If she isn't back by 11, then we are sending out someone to find her. And she better not be sneaking off with Vlad, he said, spitting out her boyfriend's name with venom. He really didn't approve. Okay, my alpha, I said, giving him a sweet smile. That always did the trick. His eyes got a shade darker, and his posture relaxed slightly. I sat on our large bed waiting for Liam to come back. He was tucking Leo in and reading him a bedtime story. I decided to try texting Missy. Her phone was basically attached to her hand anyway. Please let me know where you are and that you are okay. I waited a few minutes and sure enough, I got a reply. I am fine. With V. I sighed. Of course. She was always with him. Vlad and his father had come to the pack about 2 years ago, looking for a new home. They had left their old pack under murky circumstances, but Liam and I had allowed them to join. Missy had immediately taken a liking to Vlad. Something always just felt a little off about him and his father, but they had been model pack members, so we had dismissed it eventually. Please be home by midnight. We were worried. I knew Liam wouldn't go to bed until she was back in the pack house. K. I sighed. Teenagers were so much fun. I was not looking forward to all of this with the younger ones. Although, I was sure that Junior and Leo would be a cakewalk compared to Delilah. She was the feistiest of the group. Liam finally came into the bedroom. He looked tired. I opened my arms for him, and he gave me a grin and came right over to me. He crawled up on the bed, wrapped his arms around my middle, and rested his head on my tiny baby bump. "How's my little girl doing?" he asked. "Liam, we don't know if it's a boy or a girl yet." I scolded him. "I just know. It's going to be a little girl and she is going to be just as perfect as her mama," he said softly. He was so in love with the idea of having a girl. "Other than making me nauseous at every turn, your baby is fine," I told him. He snuggled his face into my belly smiling. "Missy texted me. She is fine and promised to be home by midnight," I told him. He sighed. He had gotten up early and worked extra this past week to help Lily put together the party for me tonight. I ran my fingers through his hair, lightly massaging his scalp. I am sure he didn't want to stay up until she was back. "Why don't I make sure she gets home tonight?" I said. "No, little Luna. You are growing my pup and still taking care of the boys every day. Plus, you have been handling things at the inn. I can stay up to make sure our miscreant teenager gets home," he said. I laughed. "Miscreant? Hardly. She is just pushing our boundaries. We just need to hold firm and make sure she knows we will always love her," I said. He grumbled into my belly. "Just get some sleep. You did a wonderful job with the party." I had a great time. I continued to scrape my fingers against his scalp, knowing that I would win this. I let one of my hands travel down and gently rub the back of his neck. He relaxed against me. "Okay. Just this once. But if she is a minute late, you wake me up to go find her. You do not go out and look for her," he said protectively. "Okay," I told him. I had no intention of waking him up. I would just call someone to help me find her or wait for her to get home safely. I continued to rub my wonderful mate and within a few minutes, he was dozing peacefully holding tight to me. Each pregnancy he had developed the habit of laying on my belly like this, close to his pup. I grabbed a book off the nightstand and settled in to read. I texted Missy at 11:30 to check on her and see if she was on her way home. She gave me no response. Liam had rolled over, giving me mobility once more. I got up to use the restroom and brush my teeth. I came back out to the bedroom and sat down on the couch to check my phone once more. I absent-mindedly rubbed my bump while looking at the conversation with Missy. It was not even showing she had read it. I sighed. I got up and left the room, making my way to Missy's. Her door was locked, but I used the master key we kept unlocking it and let myself in. There were a few clothes and books scattered about the room, but otherwise it was tidy. I sat on her bed and ran my hand along the bedspread. I thought about the day I took her to pick it out. We let her completely redecorate her room for her 13th birthday. Lemon had gone to the store with us, and Missy had been so excited. Liam had kept the boys that day and it had been all about Missy. I checked my phone again. 12:07. She had never been more than a few minutes late walking into the pack house. She may push our boundaries and be pulling away, but she was still a good kid. She had a good head on her shoulders and never did anything too troublesome. I got up and decided to go down and get a cup of tea, hoping she would be walking through the door any minute. When I got to the kitchen, I made myself some tea, then went to the front door. I sat on one of the squishy benches in the foyer and sipped my drink. The pack house was quiet, everyone was sufficiently partied out after this evening. Although I didn't have wolf hearing, my hearing was better than an average human, so I would be able to hear if she came in through the back door with the relative silence around me. I drank most of my tea before checking the time again. 12:36. I was starting to get worried. She still had not checked my message. I tried again. "You're late. Please let me know you're okay." I wait a few more minutes with no reply. I sigh and dial the number of one of the nighttime patrol wolves. He answers quickly. "Yes, Luna," he says. "Hi, Sean. Has anyone seen Missy tonight?" I asked. When I first completed my Luna ceremony, I tried to insist that everyone call me Aelia and not be so formal. Some had gone along, but many still used my title. Eventually I just accepted it, even though I wish they would just call me Aelia. "No, Luna. Is she missing?" he replied. "She was supposed to be back by midnight, and I am just a little worried," I told him. "I will have the patrol see if they can track her down within the pack land anywhere. Do you have any idea where she may have headed?" "I really don't know, unfortunately. I know she was with the boy she is always hanging around with, Vlad. She never told me where she was going though," I told him. "We will do our best to find her, Luna. But, it won't be any easier trying to track him with his indistinct scent," he explained. "What do you mean?" "Without a wolf, I could smell better than a human would, but for the most part, the only scent I could always pick up on was Liam's. I talked to Alpha about this a couple weeks ago, the first time he sent us after them. The boy doesn't have a discernible scent like wolves should. He doesn't smell of a rogue, but also not identifiable in any way." "Wow, that is strange. Maybe you should call up to the inn. See if someone saw them around town," he suggested. "Thanks. I think I will. Please let me know if you find them. Also, don't wake the Alpha, please. He was exhausted tonight, and I would really like him not to worry." "Of course, Luna." He hung up the phone and I let out a long breath. Now I was getting worried. She wasn't back yet, and this Missy, I splashed Vlad in the face and ducked under the waterfall. We were in our place. It was this beautiful little clearing with a small pond that was fed by a small waterfall. There were flowers everywhere and the lightning bugs made it glow up at night. It was peaceful and away from the pack without being too far. "Oh no you don't," he yelled, coming after me. I giggled and tried to get out of his grasp, but he caught me. "You can't run from me, princess," he said with a charming smile. "How do you move so quickly?" I complained. He held me up in his arms and I wrapped my legs around his waist, the water holding up most of my weight. He slowly walked us back towards the bank where our outer clothes lay discarded. "I guess that is my secret," he said. He was always sure of himself. It was incredibly hot if I was being honest. He peppered small kisses on my face, making me giggle again. Okay, enough, I said. We had been swimming and playing in water for a while now. It was really late, and I probably needed to get back to the pack house. If I was late, Lee and Liam would be worried out of their minds. Even if I didn't always love our pack, I loved Lee and Liam. They were good parents. Vlad brought us up on the bank and set me down. He flopped himself down and laid back, looking up through the trees at the stars above us. Come on, we should get dressed. I left my phone in your car, but I am sure we should be getting back. Don't you have a curfew? I asked him. Nope. My dad isn't like that. Come, lay with me for a bit. We should let our underclothes dry out before we get dressed anyway, he said. I rolled my eyes but couldn't resist. I laid down next to him, putting my head on his shoulder. I couldn't wait to turn 17. Vlad's birthday was right after mine as well, so it would be perfect. We would know that we are mates, and both feel the bond quickly. We had even talked about moving away from the pack after high school to get away from it all. I hadn't said anything to Liam and Lee about it yet because I knew they would freak out. It's so peaceful here, I sighed. The view is pretty great too, he said. I peeked my eyes up at him and he was looking directly at me. I blushed and looked up at the stars again. Missy, Damien's voice floated into my head. What is up, Beta? I linked back. Where are you right now? Do you know what time it is? I shot up to a sitting position. Vlad looked at me concerned. What is it? He asked. We have to go, now. I said, scrambling up. I scooped up my clothes and started getting hastily dressed. Vlad was not moving as fast. Damien just linked me asking where I am and if I know what time it is. That means I am late, and Liam is going to come looking for me. We need to go now. Okay. We'll go, princess. Just tell him you lost track of time and you will be back shortly. I can get us back in like 20 or so minutes, he said calmly. Just hurry. I urged. Sorry. Totally lost track of time and my phone died. Heading back now. Call off the search party, I tried to joke. Your phone is ringing before it goes to voicemail, Damien said. I knew I was so busted this time. I had always managed to get back right in time except once. Vlad had set up this super cute movie date out here and we fell asleep watching the movie. One of the patrols had found us and I had promised Liam I would never be late again. Damien, please tell me Liam is not out looking for me. We were rushing back to VS car now. He found his key and we got inside. I quickly checked my phone. I had multiple messages from Lee, a missed call from her and 4 from Damien. Nothing from Liam though, so that might be a good sign. Luna let him sleep and assured him she would make sure you got home safely. She is now pacing the front hall in the middle of the night distraught. She called the night patrol who informed me that you were missing, he linked. Step on it. Lee is pacing around the pack house waiting for me. She had to fight Doc on putting her on bed rest for the baby. Please hurry, I am going to be in so much trouble if Liam wakes up because she is stressing out. Her emotions are like 20-fold while she is pregnant. I am going, he said and pressed his foot to the accelerator. We got out to the main road quickly and he took off even faster. Chapter 2. Aelia. I paced back and forth through the foyer. I had heard nothing back from the patrol yet and it had been almost an hour. I had already gone up and checked her bedroom to see if she somehow had gotten past me as well. Where had she gone? Missy did not understand that she was just as much of a valuable target to anyone trying to get to Liam or me as Junior or Leo. She is our daughter all the same. I would never forgive myself if something happened to her because someone was trying to get to Liam and me. My phone rang and my heart skipped. I looked at the caller ID to see Damien calling me. Why was he calling me so late? Surely, I was quiet enough not to wake anyone in the pack house up. Hello. I answered. Aelia, Missy is on her way home now, he said. He had become much gentler since Delilah was born. How do you, Sean on patrol linked me. He said you asked that Liam not be disturbed. I assume you told him to actually get some sleep, he explained. I did. Where was she? I asked. I was calming down a little now, but I was still concerned that she was hours late now. I don't know. My guess? Probably the same place we found them last time. If you don't want Liam to wake up and come looking for you, you should try to be calm, he said. I let out a breath. He was right. During my first 2 pregnancies, it was like all my emotions were heightened and Liam felt everything. There were a few times I would panic in my sleep and Liam would wake up from it. I know. I'm sorry. I will calm down, I just need a minute. Damien, what is she thinking? I stood facing the door, just willing Missy to come through it. I needed to put her to bed, calm myself down, and then climb in bed with Liam. I don't know Lee. I didn't even see her at the party this evening, he said. I know. I figured she was just a little over it all. You know how teenagers can be. You all would sneak off away from pack gatherings too, I said. I gasped as an arm snaked around me and a large hand came up to grab the phone. His forest scent surrounded me, relaxing me from my surprise. Liam took the phone and put it to his ear, as he held me to him, my back to his front. Damien, he said in a chafed tone. I couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, but it was short-lived as the front door creaked open. She's here. We'll talk in the morning. Thanks, he said then hung up the phone. He slipped it into the pocket of his shorts. We both looked at Missy who was standing halfway into the door. I'm so sorry, she said. Liam. I woke up from a dead sleep and all I could feel was panic. Aelia. I quickly looked to the clock on the nightstand that read 2:18. It's after 2 a.m., why is she panicking? I looked around the room, quickly realizing she wasn't there. I quickly got out of bed and ran to the bathroom to check there. Nothing. Aelia. I called, moving through our bedroom. Of course, there was no reply. I opened our door and moved down the hall to Missy's room. The door was unlocked as I turned the handle. I opened it to find the room empty. I ran down the hall and stairs to look for my mate. I knew she was still in the pack house, but where? If she was waiting for Missy, she was either sitting in the dining room with a cup of tea or pacing the front foyer, and I hoped it was the former. She didn't need this added stress right now. I went to the dining room first with no sign of her. I poked my head into the kitchen, the only sign she had been there being the mug sitting next to the teapot. I dashed out of the kitchen and to the front. I calmed down slightly when I saw her facing the front door. She looked like she was talking on the phone. I approached her slowly, not wanting to spook her, and I heard Damien's voice on the other end of her phone. I stopped behind her, gently wrapping my arm around her and taking her phone. I could feel her anxiety through our bond and hoped that I could calm her a bit. She jumped a little until she realized it was me, then her body started to relax itself. Damien, I said, putting the phone to my ear. Liam, she tried not to wake you. I was able to link Missy and get her headed back home. She should be walking through the door any minute, he said. Right on cue, the front door slowly creaked open and Missy's face popped into view. She's here. We'll talk in the morning. Thanks, I said. I hung up and dropped the phone into my pocket. I'm so sorry, Missy squeaked, standing only halfway in the door. Her hair was wet, and her clothes were damp. Do you know what time it is? I asked, trying to keep the anger out of my voice. I left my phone in the car and we lost track of time. I didn't mean to make anyone worry, she said quickly. Aelia turned to me and rested her hand on my cheek. Not tonight, my alpha, she implored, looking into my eyes with her giant green ones. I sighed before looking back to Missy. Shower and bed 15 minutes, that is it. We will talk about this tomorrow, I said. She nodded quickly and hurried past us. I looked back down at Aelia. I could feel her anxiety receding, just leaving her worried. You should have woken me up, baby, I said softly. I stroked her soft cheeks. Her eyes were glistening with unshed tears. No, you needed to sleep. I am so sorry. It was the bond, right? I woke you up, she asked. It's all right, I said, wrapping her in a hug. She is back and safe and absolutely grounded. I kissed the top of her head as she wrapped her arms around me. I'm sorry. It was silly to panic, she said into my chest. No, it wasn't. It was silly to pace around this hall for goddess knows how long when you aren't supposed to be on your feet for long, I scolded. I unwrapped her from my arms and bent down to pick her up bridal style. Now, little Luna, I am taking you to bed and you are not allowed to get out of it again tonight. She leaned against me, accepting my words. She had learned to pick her battles over the past few years. She only picked the ones she could win now. I carried her upstairs. When we passed Missy's room, the light was already off. I took Aelia into our room and laid her down on the bed. I crawled up on the bed and she laid over me. Her hands lightly stroked my skin and she relaxed. We can't take away Vlad, Liam. She will just push us away more. She is convinced they are mates, she whispered. I stroked her hair gently. We can talk about it tomorrow, baby. Sleep, I said. We both needed to get some sleep. Leo was an early riser and now Aelia had been up all night. I woke up to my phone ringing. I answered it quickly so I wouldn't wake Aelia. Yet, I whispered. Lily grabbed the boys. You should take the morning off and let Aelia sleep. We'll have some brunch brought up later, Damien said softly. Thanks, I said before hanging up. Although it had woken me up, I was a little relieved to have a few more hours to lay in bed with Aelia. She needed to rest after last night and I was still a little tired after the last couple weeks. Plus, when she woke up, we could discuss what to do about Missy. Aelia stirred next to me. I wrapped my arm back around her, snaking my hand into her shirt to rest it on her tiny bump. She sleepily hummed. Shhhh. Go back to sleep, little Luna. Everything is handled, I said softly in her ear. But Leo should be getting up soon, she grumbled. Nope. Lily got him and Junior. They are all taken care of this morning. Just relax, sweetheart, I said. So, we're alone, she smiled. Her eyes blinked open as her head turned back to look at me. Just you and me, I told her with a smirk. I started to feel her desire through our bond. You know, there was something that I didn't get to do on my birthday, she said. She raised an eyebrow at me, and I knew exactly what my little Luna wanted. Fortunately for her, I intended to give her everything she wanted. Missy. When I went down to breakfast, Liam and Lee weren't there. Delta Austin grabbed me and pulled me aside before I could sit down. What were you thinking? Coming back that late and keeping Luna up? Missy, what is going on with you? He chided. I had the biggest crush on him growing up. That all ended when we learned more about mates at school. I was devastated at first that my crush could never be mine, but I also realized pretty quickly that it was all sort of absurd. But we had grown into good pals over the past few years. Austin was one of the more down-to-earth wolves in the pack and his mate was super nice. I lost track of time, okay? I didn't know Lee would wait up for me like that and freak out. I told him defensively. Missy, you are their daughter. Of course, they are going to wait up to make sure you are home safe. Luna would be beside herself if something happened to you. And I get woken up in the middle of the night by Damien to go looking for you? I was almost to that little clearing we found you at last time when he told me you were back, he said, his face covered in worry. Why was everyone freaking out so bad about me being late? I didn't know, okay? I'm sorry. I left my phone in V's car and we were just hanging out. We came back as soon as Damien linked me. I defended myself. Missy, I am worried about you. These last few months, he trailed off. Look, I need you to be a little more responsible. Maybe you should hang out with someone other than just Vlad for a while too. Lily made you some time. She grabbed Junior and Leo this morning so Alpha and Luna could sleep a little more. But you better have the best apology ever when they come out of that room. He gave me a sad look and shook his head before walking away. I sighed as I walked over to get a plate of food. I wasn't trying to disappoint anyone, but no one gets it. All the other kids my age love to talk about how my mom didn't love me and went off and killed herself. And that Lee and Liam only adopted me because it looked good for them. They don't care that my mom lost her mate or how amazing Liam and Lee really are. They just want to gossip, and I hate it. I didn't want to be friends with people like that. Vlad wasn't like that. After we first met, he had upset me once. He had called me orphan princess not knowing how much it still hurt. I had run away crying because I had started to like him and thought that I was finally going to get a break from all of that. I thought I didn't have to be defined by it with him. He had come to find me and apologized. When I explained it to him, he immediately regretted it and has only called me princess since. I sat down alone with my food and ate slowly. I felt bad the whole way back to the pack house knowing that Lee had waited up for me, but it was 10 times worse when I saw her face. She was pale and had dark circles under her eyes. And Liam was just silently seething. He was pretty good at hiding his anger, but I knew. I could also tell that he was just worried about Lee. We were all worried about this pup. When I was finished eating, I decided I would go hide in my room for the day. I had plenty of homework and studying I could do anyway. My phone chimed in my pocket. I pulled it out to see a message from V. Hope you didn't get in too much trouble. Wanna go to the lake? I sighed trying to decide what to do. I did want to go with him. I want to spend as much time as I could with him. But I felt like it would only make things worse if Liam and Lee came to find me later and I was gone with him again. Can't go. Talk later? Hopefully, this would suffice for now. I continued up to my room when I got V's reply. What happened? I got to my room and sat down at my desk before replying. Nothing yet. But I know it won't be good. I will let you know more at school. I put my phone down and grabbed my backpack, fishing out my chemistry homework. Chapter 3. Aelia. I laid on the bed panting as I came down from the high Liam took me to. Goddess, this man was my everything. With pregnancy, came an incredible level of horny that he was determined to keep up with. He kissed his way up my stomach from his position between my thighs until he got to my mouth. Feel better, kitten? He asked. I smiled and nodded my head. He gave me a wry smile. When he finally reached my face, he peppered kisses all over it, making me laugh. He held himself over me. Do you want to go back to sleep for a bit, little Luna? You barely slept, he asked, concerned. No, I'm okay. I am only a little tired, I reassured him. You're going to bed early tonight, he said, giving me a serious look. I gave him a small smile and nodded my head. Liam always made me feel so loved and cared for with his fussing over me. We need to figure out what to do with Missy, I said, giving him my own serious look. He sighed. I know, he said as he rolled to the side of me and pulled me onto him. I rested my head on his chest. Luckily, my baby bump wasn't so big that this was impossible yet. I think we need to lay down some rules about her spending time with Vlad. I agree. But how do we do that without pushing her away? I asked him. I think we should make it so they can only spend time together here, at the pack house. That way someone can have eyes on them, he said. I thought about it for a moment. There was still more than enough room at the pack house that they could spend time together. There would be eyes on them in some form practically everywhere. Liam and I would be able to know she is safe at all times. Okay. I think that should be reasonable. But for how long? You know she is going to ask, I said. At least a month. She turns 17 in only 3 or so months now, he thought. Yeah, 3 months and a week, I told him. There was a knock on the door interrupting us. Liam shifted so I was now laying on the bed and climbed out. He pulled on his shorts before opening the door. He turned back around and came over with a tray of food. I sat up as he set it down on the bed. I smiled at him, but my joy was short-lived. The scent of the scrambled eggs hit my nose and I dived out of the bed. I rushed to the bathroom, vomiting as soon as I neared the toilet. Liam was behind me quickly, pulling my hair back away from my face and rubbing my back. He waited patiently for the heaving to stop and me to calm down. When I sat back on my legs, he went to the sink and brought me a glass of water. Eggs, he linked. I nodded my head. I sipped the water while Liam left the bathroom. Probably to get rid of the eggs for me. After a few minutes, I felt a tad bit better and hoisted myself up to stand. I went to the sink and was brushing my teeth when Liam came back in. He stopped behind me and gently rubbed my back. Better? He asked. A little, I linked, my mouth full of toothpaste. I'll have someone bring you up some toast, he said. I spit the toothpaste out and swished some water through my mouth. Thank you, I said when the taste was gone. I turned around and he pulled me against him. 3 for 3 with the eggs, he whispered. I nodded. Let's go lay down for a while longer. We can talk to Missy later. Felix said she went to her room after breakfast and hasn't left. Okay, I said. Liam bent down and gently scooped me up, carrying me back to our bed. I sighed, resigning myself to his attentiveness. He laid me on the bed, climbing in next to me to hold me gently. I breathed in his wonderful forest scent, hoping it would be enough to make the nausea completely pass. We laid together for a while before he spoke. Will you stay in bed today? He asked. No, I simply said. He let out a big sigh. Will you at least sit at your desk and not overwork yourself? No pacing and running around the pack house. No baking or games with the children, he pled. All right. I will stay in my office but only until dinner, I agreed. And I am walking to and from my office. I knew he was going grumble, but I was not going to give up walking just because of a little morning sickness. Liam didn't argue and simply began to rub soothing circles on my back. My eyes grew heavy as we cuddled each other. Liam kissed the top of my head. Sleep, little Luna, he whispered. I'll wake you in a bit. The nausea was passing, and my stomach was settled again. I let Liam's scent lull me back to sleep. Missy. Felix was knocking on my door around lunchtime. I planned to just stay in my room until Lee and Liam came to yell at me, but the longer I waited, the more nervous I became. I felt like things were only going to get worse the longer they waited to yell at me. I opened my door to the giant, grumpy bodyguard Liam had almost always watching Lee. He always had the same hard, unwavering look on his face, and the scar on his face only made him more unapproachable. But I knew he was a giant softy. I didn't say anything as he glared down at me. Luna's office, he said shortly. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. Liam must have sent him to come get me. Lee never asks Felix to get her things or do her favors. I followed him down to Lee's office. He stood next to the door giving me a curt nod. I knocked on the door. Come on in, Missy, Lee's voice said. I opened the door slowly. Lee was seated behind her desk and Liam was sitting on the corner of it. Lee looked calm while Liam looked frustrated. I walked in the room and stood in front of the desk, looking down at the desk so I could avoid direct eye contact. Missy, can you look up please? Lee asked nicely. I timidly lifted my head. Thank you. We are not going to yell at you. We just want to talk to you. Why don't you sit down? She said, gesturing to one of the chairs. I sat down and held in my hands in my lap. Missy, why didn't you tell one of us if you wanted to stay out later? Liam asked surprisingly gently. I looked at him shocked. I was not expecting that. Well, I said, caught off guard. Missy, although I am upset that Aelia stayed up late worrying about you, I am more disappointed than anything. You left the party early then disappeared. We asked you to be back by a certain time so we knew you were okay and you blatantly disregarded us, he said. Aelia reached over and put a hand on Liam's arm. She did this whenever she was trying to calm him down. Our teachers at school had talked about how the mate bond can have this effect. Missy, we are worried about your behavior lately. We know you have been skipping school with Vlad, honey, she said softly. My eyes went wide. How did they find out? The school wasn't supposed to notify your parents until 4 unexcused absences in a single semester, and I made sure we only did it 3. Missy, I am the alpha of this pack. I am friends with your principal. He called me after the second one and asked if you were feeling all right, Liam said, already knowing what was going through my head. I hung my head. I'm sorry, I apologized. Lee sighed. We are worried, sweetheart. We know how much you like Vlad, but you cannot be skipping school or staying out past curfew where we don't even know where you are. Missy, you are our child and anyone could use you to hurt us. This pack is not without enemies, she said anxiously. I really didn't mean to miss curfew, I said softly. They both waited for me to continue. We were just having fun. I wanted to get away from the party and the pack. I'm tired of all the whispers. I left my phone in Vlad's car and as soon as Damien linked me, we came back. They locked eyes for a moment. While we aren't mad, we are still disappointed. And there will still be consequences, Liam finally answered. I sighed and nodded my head. For starters, you will not miss another class, Lee said sternly. She was always serious about school. You will also not be leaving the pack house unless you are going to school or attending training. My heart sank. I would be trapped here. But, we are not forbidding you from seeing Vlad, Liam continued. Hope blossomed in my chest for a moment. You two will just need to spend your time here where we know where you are. I guess that's fair, but for how long? I asked. We will see. Let's start with the next month and we will re-evaluate, Lee said. Okay, I said, nodding my head. Missy, you can't worry us like that again. It's not good for Aelia to be up all night worried and pacing around the pack house waiting to know you're safe, Liam said. I knew he was most upset about that part. Wolves couldn't help but be extra protective of their pregnant mates. So far, Aelia has had some seriously rough times being pregnant, so it was understandable that he was upset she was worried unnecessarily. I'm really sorry. I won't do it again, I promise, I said. Liam nodded his head. I am sure you want to call Vlad, so go ahead. We'll see you at dinner in a bit, Lee said with a soft smile. I nodded my head and got up from the chair. I stopped when I got to the door and turned around. I'm sorry I left the party. Happy birthday, Lee, I said before opening the door and exiting the room. Felix was standing outside like usual. He was never far from Lee unless she was with Liam. He gave me a curt nod as I hurried down the hall back to my room. At least I could still see Vlad. Liam. Missy left the office quickly. I turned to Aelia, but she already knew what I was going to say. What whispers is she talking about? Does this have something to do with us? She asked quickly. I was not going to do anything about it for the moment because I didn't want to make things worse. One of her teachers mentioned that they have noticed that Missy doesn't interact much with her classmates other than Vlad. They also think that she may be facing some bullying based on the fact that she is our adopted daughter, but Junior will be the one to take over as alpha when the time comes, I said hesitantly. I wasn't sure how to handle these rumors yet, so I did not want to worry Aelia or make things worse for Missy. Just like he thought, Azalea's face fell and he could immediately feel her worry. Why would anyone care? Missy can't be alpha, but that does not mean she is any less important. Aelia said furiously. Her mood was changing quickly. I got off my perch on the desk and moved over to her, turning her chair to face me. I kneeled down so she was no longer had to look up at me. I don't know, sweetheart. But I didn't want to make a big deal of it and make things any worse. The important thing is that we love her, and she knows that. She is well cared for and you are a wonderful mother to her, I said calmly to her. I rubbed her arms softly, hoping to calm her down slightly. Her large green orbs began to tear up a bit. Now you made mate cry, Gavin chastised me. Wow, how I did not miss these mood swings. Hey, hey. It's okay, little Luna, I said. She just shook her head. I know this was all difficult for her simply based on how she grew up. I pulled Aelia into my arms and hugged her tightly. Why would anyone be cruel to such a sweet girl? Hasn't she had enough to deal with? She sobbed in my shoulder. I let her cry until she quieted down. It didn't take long before she pulled away and grabbed a tissue from the box on her desk to wipe her nose. Missy is going to be okay. She has us and we won't let anything happen, I said firmly. Aelia nodded her head. I brushed her long, ginger locks away from her face. Let's go down to dinner a bit early and I will get you some tea, I suggested. She nodded her head. I helped pull her up and wrapped my arm around her waist as we exited her office. If she wouldn't let me carry her, I was still going to hold on to her. Felix followed as we made our way downstairs. I needed to figure out what the rumors and whisperings around Missy were so I could figure out how to put a stop to them quickly. Chapter 4. Missy. I've been grounded for over a week now. At first Vlad was sensitive about it. He apologized when I told him what happened the next day at school. He promised when I was able to do things outside the pack house again, he wouldn't let me be late again. He was busy with his dad that night but came over the next day. We went up to my room to study right after school. We were laying on my bed with our history books open when Felix barged in. Liam sent him to make us go downstairs. I went to Lee's office to see if she could talk some sense into Liam, and V ended up leaving because of the drama. Now he didn't want to come over, trying to use the excuse of not making the alpha mad. I closed my locker door and hiked my backpack onto my shoulder. I was not even going to bother looking for V before I left school. The only good thing that has come out of being grounded is that I am way ahead on schoolwork and studying for now. Without having V to occupy my time, I have nothing better to do than study or play with the kids. I made my way to the front doors. I didn't feel like riding the bus, and because I am intentionally ignoring V, that meant walking back to the pack house. I didn't mind much though. I walked down the front steps and headed to the sidewalk. Before I left the lot though, V pulled up next to me. "Princess, what are you doing?" "I was looking for you," he said through the driver's window. "I wasn't looking for you," I said, continuing to walk. "You aren't really mad, are you?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, V. I am mad. I was late because I was out with you, I get grounded, and now you won't even come over to hang out. I'm stuck in that suffocating pack house all the time and you just keep coming up with excuses," I told him. I picked up the pace a little. My wolf was getting frustrated. When I got back to the pack house, I intended to ask Lee if I could go for a run. I needed to let off some steam. "Missy, don't be like that," he said. "Be like what, V?" I said, stopping and turning to him. He stopped the car and got out. He stood close to me, looking down at me. "I'm sorry. I just didn't want to make more trouble for you with the alpha. I know he is your father, but he doesn't seem to like me much," he said. He brought his hand up to cup my face. "It doesn't matter if Liam likes you or not. We both know we are mates. Let me deal with Lee and Liam." "You basically just deserted me," I said. I was getting so frustrated I wanted to cry. His face softened at me. "I'm not deserting you. If you want me to come over so bad, I will," he said. "I'm sorry, princess." I pursed my lips. "Fine," I said. "Will you let me take you home then?" he asked. I let out a sigh before nodding. He gave me a small smile. We walked around the car and he opened the door for me. I rolled my eyes and got in. I wonder if Liam ever frustrated Lee this much. Mates sure could be a pain. V took us to the pack house. When we got inside, I took us to the kitchen first to grab some snacks. Lee had completely changed the pack house over the years. Now, there were wolves paid well to cook most of the meals, but everyone was expected to clean after themselves and help around the pack house if they lived here. I always knew when she was really stressed out because I would find her obsessively cleaning areas of the pack house. She never used like the omega floors. After I grabbed us some fruit, chips, and waters, I took us out to the back patio to do homework. I was almost done with our final English paper, but I knew V wasn't even close. There was bound to be people in the lounge around the TV and I didn't feel like dealing with the nag of taking V to my room, so I settled for this. It was nice outside anyway. When we sat down, I started getting my books out while V grabbed the bowl of chips. How do you possibly still have homework? Every time I call you, you are studying, he said. Well, it's not like I have much else to do. Get your essay out. It's due this week and I know you aren't done, I said. He rolled his eyes at me. Yes, princess, he said with a playful smirk. When he got his things out, I stole his notebook and flipped through to find his essay draft. I scanned the page astonished. V, you have like 2 paragraphs here. This is a 10-page paper. The timeline told us to have the first draft done a week ago. I exclaimed. He shrugged. I'll finish it, he said looking bored. Do you want to sit through summer school? I asked him. Won't matter much if your warden doesn't release you before then, he countered. That's not fair. I said. We were interrupted by Delilah and Junior running out of the back door. Missy, 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 they yelled running over to us. Missy, play soccer with us. Junior jeered. Please. We need more on our team. Delta is on Leo's team. Delilah whined. I sighed. Guys, I am busy with V right now. Why don't you go look for Jacob or Hunter? Or maybe your dad's? I suggested. Uncle Liam has the gammas doing something important, she whined. Daddy took Mommy to the doctor, Junior said. V immediately snapped his head towards me. I knew exactly what he was thinking. Liam and Lee weren't here. I turned to him and shook my head. No way, I whispered. I turned back to the kids. Where is Beta? I asked. Daddy said he had to have a talk with Mommy and to go play until dinner, Delilah said. That made me giggle a little. I don't think they were talking much. I sighed. Let's play with them, V said next to me. I turned to him a little surprised. He never voluntarily hung out with the kids. He was always wanting to go off alone together. Are you sure? What about your essay? I said. He stood and set the bowl of chips down. He leaned over and gave me a peck on the forehead. I told you, princess. I will get it done, he said. He looked at the kids and gave them a smile. All right, let's play some soccer, he said. They cheered loudly. I resigned myself to this and went along. Liam. We sat in an examine room waiting for my uncle to come in. Aelia was fine for the first few days after her party, but then she started getting pains in her sides. She tried to hide it from me, but Lily spilled the beans. Everyone was worried about her and watching her closely. I knew we were all driving her crazy since she hated being the center of attention, but we all couldn't help but be worried. I forced her to come get checked out today after calling my uncle to make sure he had time. I left Felix with the kids, so she could have no objections. Pregnant women have pain, Liam. I am literally growing another life inside of me. This is not necessary, she complained. Her bump was starting to be noticeable in her clothes now. Every time I looked at it, I swelled with pride. I love seeing her carrying my pups. Baby, I know that. But we both know that we need to be extra careful this time around. If you're having a problem, we need to get it checked on, I told her. I stood next to her and rubbed her lower back gently. You are really lucky that I like you so much, she huffed. That made me laugh. I gave her a mock pouty face and she rolled her eyes at me. Finally, my uncle came in. My favorite Luna, he said warmly. Nephew, he nodded his head at me. Aelia and my uncle were close. She seemed to like him far more than my parents, even though we all had an amenable relationship now. My uncle had even helped her track down information about her wolf and white moon heritage after she took the Luna title. It was the first and only time she had ever shown me she was disappointed about not having her wolf. My mate had really been special for a reason. Her wolf was one that was reincarnated throughout her bloodline, and it was supposed to be incredibly powerful. She had been upset for a while, thinking that she was not good enough to carry that mantle along. A former White Moon member had been the one to cheer her up. The woman was a nurse now working with my uncle and was well versed in White Moon history. She told Aelia that her wolf would simply wait to emerge in the next worthy heir of her bloodline. Since then, Aelia has not been upset about not having a wolf, just occasionally frustrated at her physical weakness. But what she lacked in physical strength she more than made up for in other ways. She was an incredible businesswoman. The inn ran like a top even without her presence. The pack house was a whole different place compared to our childhood. And she attended to the needs of our pack members with exceptional grace. To top it all off, she was the best mother to our pups. She was nurturing and attentive, but they were not spoiled. They were strong-willed and curious children that were well behaved and had decent manners. I hear there has been some pain happening around the pup, my uncle asked. It isn't anything really, Aelia said. She's lying, I told him. She shot me a careful look. Why don't we go ahead and just take a look and just make sure it's nothing, he said, pulling over the ultrasound machine. Fine, she said. I helped her shift back on the bed and she lifted her shirt, displaying her cute, round bump. I held her hand while my uncle squirted the cool jelly on her stomach. She shivered a little. He quickly moved the wand over her, spreading the jelly around. He watched the small screen on the machine as he moved the wand around. We waited patiently for him to look at the baby. Finally, he turned the monitor around to us. I can't see anything concerning now. Hopefully, this pain is just due to you growing around the baby. Like the last couple pregnancies, you are having to adapt to a much faster growing baby than your body wants to. Without wolf abilities to help you, we are going to have to manage some of these pains. But I can show you this, he said, pointing to the monitor. There was the smallest outline of a face and hand from a side perspective on the screen. My heart picked up speed. My pup! Gavin hooted in my head. He loved pregnant Aelia, every aspect of it. Why don't I print this for you then, he said, smiling at Aelia. She gave him a warm smile and nodded. Her irritation with me forgotten. At the last checkup she had, he gave her a picture of the baby, but it was still mostly a dot. That photo was currently sitting against the base of the computer monitor on my desk so I could see it all the time. We got her cleaned up and Uncle Ron handed us the photo. Should we be worried? I asked him. As long as you stay on light duty for now, I don't think so. I will give you something for the pain that won't hurt the baby, but you must take it easy, Aelia. No picking up those kids you are always chasing around. Don't stand or walk for long periods of time. No excessive chores, he told her sternly. We both knew she was too strong-willed to sit still without someone forcing her to. She rolled her eyes at him. Okay, she said. Am I free, wardens? She asked us sarcastically. He just chuckled and nodded. Come back to see me in about a week or so, he said as we left the office. She held the picture up, smiling. Still mad at me, little Luna? I asked and I wrapped my arm around her waist. A little, she said. She looked up at me through her eyelashes and I could feel her desire through our bond quickly. But you can take me to our room and make it up to me before dinner. You might have just enough time, my alpha. Chapter 5. Aelia. I looked at the ultrasound picture of my little baby and I was so happy. As Liam and I left the clinic, he wrapped his arm around my waist. These pregnancy hormones had no rhyme or reason because as I looked at that little photo and thought about my handsome mate, I wanted him suddenly. I wanted him badly. And of course, he was more than willing to oblige me. He tried to walk faster but I was never as quick as him with my shorter strides. He got fed up with waiting by the time we got to the pack house because he just scooped me up and darted to our room. He shut the door to our room with his foot as he carried me inside. He walked over to the bed, dropping me lightly. His eyes were dark, I am sure due to the smell of my own arousal. He grabbed a hold of my face and kissed me hungrily. I moaned softly into his lips. When he broke our kiss I said, Liam, I want Gavin. You sure? He asked breathily. I nodded my head timidly. He closed his eyes and his chest moved up and down a couple times. He opened his eyes and his posture changed slightly. His shoulders set further back with his chest and chin slightly forward. He exudes confidence and possession. Hello, little mate, he said. I could feel my cheeks flame. Sometimes I just needed Gavin to scratch my itch. He leaned over me, placing his fists on the bed on either side of me. His pupils were dilated. His nose went to my neck and he inhaled slowly. He didn't have to say a single word to send tingles all over my body. What do you want, little mate? He whispered as he started to gently kiss and nip at the skin on my neck and shoulder, flirting all around my mark. Take me, I said breathlessly. His teasing was setting my skin on fire. He growled into my neck. My pleasure, he said. You are very ready, aren't you, little mate? He said. I nodded my head from my exposed position. His hand fisted in my hair and I was abruptly pulled upwards. He released my hair and his hand moved south to my aching clit. I knew I wouldn't last much longer. He nipped at my earlobe before saying, not just yet, in a low tone. Please, I begged. Gavin, please, now. He smiled over the skin of neck. He adjusted his mouth right over my mark. I knew what he was about to do and we both knew I wouldn't be able to hold my body back if he did. He blew on the sensitive skin, causing goosebumps to cascade across my skin. Please, I whimpered. Okay, he whispered. At the same time, it was a switch sending me into overdrive. My body convulsed around him, triggering his own release. My legs trembled from the adrenaline coursing through me. His mouth came off my neck and he softly kissed my jaw up to my cheek. I let him hold me up as I slowly came down from the delicious high he took me to. I knew Liam was back soon because his hands went from gripping me possessively to holding me tenderly. I let my head drop back on his shoulder and he looked down at me with a smile. Better? He asked. I just gave him a sated smile. Pick me up. I think it's time for my little Luna to relax, he said softly. He carried me into the bathroom. He sat me down on the counter then gave me a sweet kiss. Why don't I get you a book? I will have some dinner brought up for you and you can just soak for a while, he suggested. I laughed a little. You know I am not mad at you anymore, right? I asked him. He gave me another sweet kiss. I know, he said. He left me to run the bath, adding my favorite bubble bath. It smelled like fresh rain in the woods and reminded me of him. Liam had a new tub put in while I was pregnant with Leo. It had gentle jets and kept the water warm. It had helped a lot with the back pain at the time. I was always so busy working and taking care of the kids, I didn't get much time to enjoy it since. He lit some candles next to the tub before coming back over to me. He gave me another kiss. He smiled lovingly at me. You don't want to join me? I asked, hopefully. I want to, but someone should go down and eat with the boys. Also, Vlad has returned, he said softly. How do you know? I asked him. Felix linked me while my uncle was checking the pup, he told me. Be nice, please, I pleaded. I will, he promised. Now let's get you relaxing so I can go get my pregnant mate some food. I gave him a small laugh and a nod. He helped me down from the counter and I walked over to the bath. He held my hand as I stepped in and lowered myself into the warm water. Liam left me and went out to our bedroom to retrieve the book from my nightstand. He returned completely dressed now and set the book on the little tray that sat across the ledges of the tub for me. I relaxed into the water and closed my eyes, breathing in the flowery candles he lit and enjoying the soft water jets on my lower back. After a few minutes, I sat up a bit, pulling my now half-wet hair into a loose bun, and drying my hands off on a small towel hanging next to the bath. I grabbed my book and started reading. I had not gotten far when Liam returned bringing a tray of food with him. I gave him a questioning look. He gave me a knowing smirk. I may have already planned to bring my beautiful mate one of her favorites tonight, he told me. Of course, he had planned ahead. He set the food down on the tray and I smiled. There was a dish of homemade macaroni with some fresh-looking dinner rolls and a small bowl of sliced fruit. There was also a large glass of milk and a glass of juice. Thank you, I said, sitting up and leaning forward. He bent down to meet me for a kiss. Relax for a while, baby. Link me when you're done, he said gently. I nodded and gave him another kiss before he left me to my little candle-lit, bubble bath dinner. Chapter 6. Liam. After Aelia was all taken care of, I went downstairs to find the kids. I linked Felix and he told me they were still playing soccer. I went outside and found Felix and Damien standing on the sideline of their game watching. I joined them. The kids didn't pay any attention to us on the sideline. I noticed that Missy and Vlad were playing. Missy was smiling and laughing as two smaller kids tried to take the ball from her. As I watched, I realized that Vlad never took his eyes off Missy. I don't like him, Gavin said in my head. I don't either. I don't like the way he watches her, I said. He wants our pup, Gavin said. He wants something, but I don't know exactly what, I said. I can't figure out what his motive could be. Missy won't be the next alpha, so why target her? I had been suspicious of Vlad for a while now. I hoped at first that the infatuation Missy had would sizzle out, but I had been wrong. Aelia was concerned but more for Missy than for any foul play happening. He better not be her mate, Gavin complained. What's the score? I asked Damien and Felix. They are tied, Damien said. Wanted to let them find a winner before we called them in for dinner. But no side can get 2 goals ahead. That made me smile. Our pups were all fiercely competitive, especially Delilah. Should we go help them? I asked. Felix stood there stoically as always. This guy was a good guard. He was always observant and attentive. He carried out orders efficiently and never let me down. He never even took a day off. Aelia had only managed to run him off once during her first pregnancy. If he didn't have eyes on Aelia, she was with me or a select few other people I trusted to keep her safe. He had even stopped a hunter trying to get to her at the inn a couple years ago. Might not be fair if we get involved, observed Damien next to me. Maybe you're just afraid to lose, I taunted him. He rolled his eyes but looked at me with a half smile. You're on, Alpha, he said. We both walked out towards the kids' game. When they noticed us, they all stopped and smiles spread across their faces. Vlad's face was impassive, but Missy gave me a small smile. Got room for 2 more? I asked. Lily finally broke up the game and it was declared a tie. Damien and I led the kids back and forth, goal to goal, for over an hour when she finally stomped onto the field and took the ball from us. She gave us a prompt lecture about responsibility and keeping the kids out so long past dinner. Damien managed to calm her down slightly, but I knew he would get another earful later. Some of the kids left, racing back to their houses to meet their parents for dinner and tell them about playing soccer with the Alpha and Beta. The rest of us headed into the dining room where Lily had already made sure there was dinner left for us despite her irritation at our tardiness. I realized that I hadn't heard from Aelia during the game. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. I didn't have any messages from her. She is in her office, Lily said looking at me. She told me not to tell you. She wanted to take care of a few things since you pulled her away earlier. Felix looked at me before leaving the dining room, not even bothering to eat his dinner. He was probably going to her office now. I sighed at my headstrong mate and took a seat with Leo. Junior was sitting with Austin and his eldest pup, Carly. Damien, Lily, and Delilah sat with Leo. Dinner was pleasant and soon enough Aelia entered the dining room bringing Felix along behind her. You can't just guilt me into not working by effectively starving my bodyguard, she said as she sat down next to me. I did nothing of the sort. But I did leave you to relax only to come back and find out you went to work, I said reaching over and kissing her cheek. She looked at Felix then looked at me with an expectant expression. She knew he would only leave her for the night if I told him to. I laughed and nodded to him. He turned around, disappearing to the kitchen to get some food, I was sure. How did the appointment go? Lily asked her. After that the girls gushed about the baby. Gwen. I sat on the stupid little bed to the side of my cell. My mom had been here earlier today. It was becoming exhausting trying to pretend I was repentant about attacking Aelia 6 years ago. I just wanted out of this place. Over time, they had given me an upgrade in treatment of sorts. I had a small table that had books, paper, and pens. I could read and such which passed the time sometimes. The dumb therapist they assigned me gave me this idiotic little journal to write in. When I realized he was going to periodically take it and read it, I got smart and started writing about being sorry and being a better pack member. Whatever I had to do to get out of here. I picked at the food on the tray next to me as I stared at the photos they let my mother hang on the wall. Of course, they used an adhesive for the frames instead nails or screws. I was still a prisoner after all. I wondered if he was coming tonight. I never knew when he would show up. My mother of course had told me all about the different things happening around the pack, always tell me the lives of my niece and nephew like I cared. Of course, I pretended to so I could keep up the charade and convince them to let me out. More than anything, I wanted to get out of here and repay Aelia for the 6 years of my life she has now wasted. I wouldn't let a single minute of this go. When he started showing up about 2 years ago, I was intrigued. He never gave me a name and I never saw his face. Somehow, he managed to get past the guards without detection as well. But he was very interested in everything I could tell him about the little wolf *h. He told me if I helped him, he would help me. I had nothing to lose and figured he was as close as an ally as I was going to get if he was trying to make a move against Aelia and Liam. As long as I got my revenge, I didn't care how all this played out. I tore off a piece of banana and popped it in my mouth. I watched the clock slowly tick by. After 20 more minutes of slowly eating and watching the clock, I gave up. I picked up the food tray and set it on the table for the guards to take away in the morning when they brought breakfast. I laid down on the uncomfortable bed and closed my eyes. I just had to keep this up for a little while longer. I had to be close to getting out of here. Aelia. I tucked Leo into his bed and kissed him good night. He wrapped his little arms around my neck and gave me a big squeeze. Good night, Mommy, he said sleepily. He had run himself tired this evening playing soccer for so long. I couldn't complain. He would sleep well tonight and probably be cheery tomorrow. I left his room after switching on his little crescent moon night light. His eyes were closed before I shut his door. Liam came out of Junior's room as I came down the hall. No bedtime stories? I asked. Nope. He is officially too big. Apparently, Delilah and Carly don't get stories, so he doesn't need them anymore, Liam said. I sighed. My sweet baby was growing up and it made me a little sad. I looked at Missy, who was so close to 17 that it made my heart clench, and then at Junior, who was finishing his first year of school, and I wanted to cry. Oh no you don't, said Liam, wrapping his arms around me. Yes, they are growing up and getting bigger. Yes, Missy is about to become of age and might find her mate. But they won't leave us, they will still need us, and they will always love you, Liam reassured me quickly. I gave him a shallow laugh. How do you always know exactly what is going on in my head? I asked. Magic, he said with a smirk. I reached up and gave him a kiss. Our moment was short-lived though. His eyes glazed over momentarily, and his face dropped. I knew that look. Something was wrong. He wasn't my wonderful mate Liam, he was Alpha Liam now. What is it? I asked. Rogues, he said. Go to our room. Do not leave, okay? How many? I asked. He gave me a look and I met it right back. Not many, he admitted. Can the patrols not handle it? They called me, didn't they? He said. I could detect a slight hint of sarcasm, but if there weren't a lot of rogues, why did they need Liam to come? What aren't you telling me? I asked. He studied my face carefully, but I wasn't backing down. Fine. They aren't violent. They are seeking a new pack. They have turned themselves into the patrol willingly, he said. What? Then what is the problem? This is the third group we have come across in the last month like this, he said. My eyebrows shot up at that. Third group? Why didn't you tell me? We sent the first couple away with food and supplies, not trusting the situation, he admitted. Liam! I exclaimed. We have to help them. Aelia, it's not that simple, no, it very well is. Now, Alpha, you are taking me with you. We need to help these people. We will find them some beds for the night and get to the bottom of this tomorrow. Link Marcy and see if she will whip up something quick to feed them. Have Damien bring Lily to help me, I commanded. He gave me a hard look. I knew he was conflicted. He wanted me nowhere near anything even slightly dangerous. But he also knew I wasn't going to sit by while he sent peaceful people away from our border. Fine. But you will stay with me and Felix is coming. If I think something is fishy for even a split second, we are taking you out of it. And you aren't walking all that way, I will carry you on my back, he said. I smiled victoriously. Okay, let's go, I said. I turned and quickly went to the steps, not giving him a chance to change his mind. Chapter 7. Liam. I shifted quickly and Aelia grabbed my clothes. I laid down so she could climb up on top of me. By the time she was securely on top of me, another wolf joined us, his facial scar telling us exactly who he was. "We will catch up with you," Damien lined me. I nodded at Felix and we took off towards the border where one of the patrols had the group of rogues. Aelia kept her arms firmly wrapped around my neck as I sped through the woods. About halfway there, we were joined by 2 more wolves. "How many are we looking at?" Damien linked me. 10 according to the patrol, I said. 4 adult and 6 pups. "This is larger than the last group," he said. "There have been other groups," Lily said. "Only 2 so far. We gave them supplies and they moved along with no fight," Damien told her. "Did you 2 tell Lee about this?" she asked accusatorily. When neither of us answered immediately, she knew we hadn't. We all knew Azalea's heart was bigger than any other person we knew. Damien and I had been more concerned about where the rogues had come from than anything else when they appeared. "Thought so. She wouldn't have let you just turn them away," Lily said. "How often do we encounter peaceful rogues?" I challenged her. "We have no idea what their true intentions are and it's our job to protect the pack, not run a charity," I growled in irritation. "Liam is right, Lily. We have no idea what they were really seeking when they came here. We had to make a decision with the best interest of the pack in mind," he said. "Fine. But now that this is the 3rd time, we need to find out more," she said. I was sure she understood our decision even if she also was on the side of not sending someone away. We approached the group quickly. They were nervous when 4 wolves approached with a person riding one. It certainly wasn't normal for an adult to ride on the back of a wolf. Occasionally parents would shift and carry their pups around for fun, but it was not a normal method of travel. I am sure it didn't help that Damien and I were far larger than average wolves. He was massive in his human form and the size of a bear in wolf form. I was large due to being an alpha, but I had also noticed that I had grown slowly after I marked Aelia. I stopped and laid down so Aelia could slide off me. Lily trotted over to a couple of trees to shift and put clothes on. Once Aelia was safely on the ground, she stood in front of me as I shifted back. She handed me clothes as waited for me to dress before turning around to find the leader of the patrol. Felix quickly joined us. "Sean, can you tell me what you have found out?" she said. "Yes, Luna." The group waited beyond the border until the patrol came through. They waved us down and asked for refuge within our pack. "We linked Alpha and Beta to determine how to proceed," he told her. Felix and I stood behind her as she addressed the patrol leader. I couldn't help but admire how she was when she was in Luna mode. "I see. Do you have any reason to suspect they are here to hurt us?" she asked Sean. "No, Luna. They have been entirely compliant. They told us they would leave if they would not be permitted onto pack grounds," he told her. I looked over at the group. There were 3 women and 1 male adult with 3 small boys, 2 small girls and teenage girl. Aelia turned and approached the group. I came to her side and Felix stayed behind her. "Who speaks for you?" I asked. "I do," said the male. "What is your name?" I asked. "My name is Graham, Alpha," he said, bowing his head in respect. "Where have you come from?" Aelia asked. "Our pack was destroyed," he explained. "We have been traveling a long time looking for a new home. We promise, we mean no one any harm. We simply want to find a place we can live safely." Aelia looked up at me. I knew exactly what was going through her head. Are there more of you? I asked. This is all that has traveled with us. Many of our pack were able to escape, but everyone went in different directions. I do not know where others went, he said. I nodded my head and looked at Damien. Do you think they could be from the same pack as the others? I linked. It is possible, he said. We can't be for sure. We didn't take their names previously, and even if we had, what is the chance they would know the others? Maybe if they came from a very small pack, but that isn't a guarantee. When was the last time you ate? Aelia asked them. We had a small meal yesterday, Luna, Graham told her. We have been saving the food mainly for the children, but we fled with no money and none of us are skilled at hunting. Do you think you can walk a bit further? Aelia said, smiling at them. Yes, ma'am, Graham said to her gratefully. Aelia turned to me. We should go back first so we can have everything ready for them. We should have enough beds. Can the patrol escort them to the pack house? She asked me. She was so good at being Luna. I nodded. Sean, bring these people to the pack house. Damien, stay with them. Lily, Felix, come with Aelia and me. We will get them accommodations for the night so we can discuss things in the morning. Damien, please have Jacob meet me in my office as well, I ordered. Everyone nodded their heads. I walked towards the trees and Aelia followed me. Felix and Lily followed behind us. Lily, when we get back, can you go make sure rooms are ready for them and see what clothes we have to spare? I said as we walked. Yes, she said. We all began to undress. Aelia, you will stay with Felix. I need to meet with Jacob so you can go down to the kitchen. You do not come out of the kitchen until I am done, I told her firmly. I knew Felix was listening to every word and didn't need further direction. Okay, she said gently. She wasn't going to pacify me out of caution. I shifted and laid down so she could climb atop me again. It was probably more practical for Felix to carry her back so I could go ahead, but she was my mate. The three of us took off with Aelia in tow. We were quickly back at the pack house as I pushed the pace the whole way. We shifted and dressed as we headed to the front door. When we got inside, Aelia and Felix headed straight to the kitchen and Lily rushed down to the laundry room where we kept a closet of extra clothing. I trusted that she had taken note of the group and their possible sizes already. I went up to my office where Jacob was waiting for me. I quickly briefed him. He knew about the first group we had encountered, so I told him of the second and this one. I wanted him to keep watch tonight over the group to make sure none of them tried anything suspicious. After discussing a few details, he left my office and went to help Lily prepare the rooms. Jacob wasn't the biggest fan of Aelia even now, but he had dropped his sour attitude and showed her respect as his Luna. I took a deep breath, trying to collect myself. Something felt off about this. When packs were attacked, usually it was devastating with few survivors. If there had been many fleeing, what had happened? We are coming across the lawn, Damien linked me. I rubbed my hands over my face. I left my office and headed to the kitchen. Surprisingly, Aelia was seated at the counter. She was assembling boxes from trays of food next to her. Marcy stood across from her helping. It looked like they had managed to pull together some stew and fresh bread with small salads for the adults and some breaded chicken, fruit, and crackers for the kids. The meals looked filling and warm. Aelia was wrapping up some brownies and placing them in the boxes. They are here, I came over and told her. Great, we are just about finished. Can your hired muscle help carry these? She said, looking over to Felix. I rolled my eyes and nodded at her. Marcy and Aelia finished stuffing the boxes and closed them all up. She handed Felix the 6 kids' meals before handing me the adult meals. "Thank you so much, Marcy. I'll come down in the morning and help get breakfast ready," she told the older woman. "Oh Luna, no need. We will be fine," she said. "No, you came down in the middle of the night to help, so I will come help in the morning," Aelia told her. Marcy just gave her a warm smile and nodded. "Good night, Alpha, Luna," she said as she bowed her head and left the kitchen. Marcy had moved into the pack house about a year ago after her maid died. She had sort of become in charge of all the wolves hired to cook for the pack house. Aelia led us to the front door of the pack house. We arrived as it was opening, and Damien led the group inside. Lily and Jacob also joined us. "Welcome everyone. We have some meals for you guys and rooms prepared," she said to the small group. "You should all eat and rest tonight. Tomorrow we can decide how to move forward," I told them. "Thank you so much," said Graham for the group. Aelia grabbed a box from Felix's hands and knelt in front of one of the kids. Felix moved with her, staying in close proximity. "Hi. My name is Aelia. What's yours?" she asked the small girl. "Ashley," the girl whispered. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" Aelia asked her. She nodded her head. "I had some special meals put together for you. Would you like some?" she said, offering the lunchbox. The girl reached forward hesitantly and took the food. "Thank you, Miss Luna," the girl said. She looked nervously behind Aelia where Felix stood. "Don't mind my grumpy friend," she said. "He isn't scary." The girl just nodded, not believing her. Aelia and I passed out the food and had Lily and Jacob take the group to their rooms. Aelia came to my side as they disappeared up the stairs. "What now, my alpha?" she said, grabbing my hand. "Bed for tired, pregnant Lunas," I said. She laughed quietly. "Only if you come with me," she said. I bent down and kissed the top of her head. "Okay," I agreed. I woke up to Aelia trying to wiggle out of my grasp. I just pulled her closer and gave her a small growl. "Liam, let me go," she said, distressed. I let her go quickly and she dashed to the bathroom. I sat up quickly. My wolf hearing picked up her retching through the door, so I hurried in to help her. She was crouched over the toilet. I grabbed a small bottle of water from the supply I put in the cabinet for this exact purpose. I sat next to her and rubbed her back until the retching stopped. When she sat back, I handed her the water. She swished some through her mouth and spit it out before taking a small sip. "You okay, baby?" I asked her gently. "Yeah," she said. "Just morning sickness." I sighed. I wish this wasn't so hard on her. I would do anything to make it better for her. I stood and helped her to her feet. "I'm going to brush my teeth," she said, dismissing me. I left the bathroom, going to the closet to get some clothes. When I came out of the closet, she sat on the bed rubbing her small bump. She looked lost in thought. Her eyes met mine as I came to stand in front of her. "Do you want me to grab you some clothes?" I asked her. "Sure. Something comfy please," she said, giving me a weak smile. I went back to the closet, a little worried that she still felt sick. I grabbed her some leggings and one of her favorite shirts, and just for good measure I grabbed my old sweatshirt she still loves all these years later. When I came back out, her eyes were closed as she held her stomach. Chapter 8. Aelia. I knew Liam was worried, but it was just morning sickness. Sometimes it didn't go away right away. As long as there weren't any eggs for breakfast today, it would go away soon. I took the clothes Liam brought me and smiled. I ran my hands over the soft, worn sweatshirt. I reached my face up and he bent down to give me a kiss. I stood and went into the bathroom to change. It was too warm for the sweatshirt, so I left it on the bathroom counter. When I came out a few minutes later, Liam was on the phone. I shot a look at the clock. If I hurried, I could get Leo and get down to the kitchen to help prepare breakfast and be there when our guests started to arrive. Yes, yes. Let's talk more later. Thank you, Langston, Liam said. He hung up the phone and turned to me. That was Alpha Langston. They also found a group of friendly rogues last night seeking a new pack to join, he said. Do they know where the group came from? I asked. No, not yet. He plans to meet with the group after breakfast. Apparently, Ella had similar ideas on how to handle the guests, he said. I smiled brightly. It's a Luna thing, I said jokingly. He just rolled his eyes at me. I wonder if they are from the same pack. I would say it's likely unless there is someone systematically coming after packs. But they cannot be anywhere close, or we would have heard something by now, he said. True. How long do you think they have been traveling? I really don't know, baby. Why don't we go down to greet them for breakfast? You can go ahead on down to the kitchen. I'll bring Leo and we'll let Junior come down when he wakes up, Liam said. You sure? I can go get Leo, I said. I know my little Luna wants to get in the kitchen. Go ahead. I closed the distance between us and kissed his cheek. I left our bedroom and made my way downstairs. Just like magic, Felix appeared by my side on my way downstairs. Good morning, I chirped. He just passively nodded. Sleep well? I asked. As usual, he was quiet. I had grown used to him over the past few years and enjoyed his company. I had never learned much about him personally as he was always so quiet. Nonetheless, Felix was family now. When we got down to the kitchen, Marcy was back as well as another she-wolf. One was mixing pancake batter while the other was manning the stovetop. There were already bowls of freshly sliced fruit waiting on the counter. Good morning, ladies, I said cheerfully. How can I help? Luna, please sit. We have everything, Marcy said kindly. No, please. I would like to help. I insisted. She sighed. Why don't you mix the batter for us and I will attend to the meat, she said. But please sit. Alpha will be so upset if you are on your feet too long. All right, I said. I sat down on one of the tall stools and started combining ingredients and whisking the large bowls of batter. In no time at all, the pancakes were finished and Marcy was piling up a large platter of sausages. Liam came into the kitchen with a bright-eyed Leo in his arms. Mommy, he cheered. Liam brought him straight over to me. Hello, sweetheart, I said. He reached his arms out to me, but Liam held him firm. No, Mommy can't pick you up. You're too big now, he told him. Leo pouted a little. I stood up and kissed his soft cheek. How did you sleep, sweetheart? I asked him. Leo gave me a wide smile. We should go to the dining room, little Luna. Jacob linked me a few minutes ago that the group is waking up. We should see them shortly, Liam linked. Leo, do you want to help Mommy and Daddy greet some guests? I asked my little boy. He nodded enthusiastically. He wiggled to get out of Liam's arms, so he let him down on the floor. He grabbed my hand and pulled me towards the dining room. Liam chuckled and followed us. Felix followed suit. When we got into the dining room, Damien and Lily were already sitting down. Lucas was playing with some toy cars on the table. Leo ran to him to join his game. We joined Damien and Lily, standing next to them. Liam wrapped his arm around my waist. Langston called this morning, Liam told Damien. Oh really, he said. Apparently, he is facing a similar set of circumstances. I told him I would speak with him later this afternoon when we had time to learn more about our guests, Liam said. Damien nodded. Do you think they all come from the same pack? Lily asked. We had this conversation earlier, Liam said, nodding at me. It's entirely possible. But it could also mean there is someone systematically decimating packs. It's too much of a coincidence to have 3 groups over the last 6 weeks arrive at our border in the same manner. We'll know soon enough, said Damien. We all looked over and Jacob was leading the new group into the dining. Missy. I grabbed my backpack and headed downstairs. Junior was making his way down the steps sleepily. Hey bud, going to get some breakfast? I asked. He nodded his head. I held my hand out and we walked down the steps together. I took him to the dining room where I was surprised to see Lee and Liam talking with a group of unfamiliar people. I headed towards them, Junior following along. When he eyed Delilah, Lucas, and Leo, he beelined for them. I tapped on Lee's shoulder to get her attention. Sometimes I wish I could link her. I'm going to school early. I will grab an apple from the kitchen, I told her. Do you want us to drive you? She asked. No, that's all right. V is picking me up, I told her. She pursed her lips a little. All right. Come straight home after school, though. Okay? And do you want to go up to the inn with us for the weekend? There are some things I want to take care of, she asked. Sure. Sounds fun, I said. Maybe Lemon would be around, and I could just hang out with her. Lemon was a human and way cooler than anyone in the pack. She had an awesome sense of style too. I headed out of the dining room, stopping in the kitchen to grab an apple for breakfast. My phone dinged, telling me that V was probably outside. He said he wanted to show me something this morning before school when he left last night. I jogged out of the pack house and sure enough, he was parked and waiting for me in the drive. Hey princess, he called as I approached. Hi, I said happily. I knew I was lying to Lee, but we would get to school early still. So, is the rumor true? He asked as I got in. What rumor? That there are a bunch of rogues hiding out in the pack, he asked. What? Were those the people in the dining room this morning? I don't think so. We might have some new pack members, but I don't think we're hiding rogues, I said. Well, that is disappointing. Was hoping for a little drama around here, you know, other than you being grounded, he teased. Whatever. So where are we going? I asked as he took off. That, princess, is for me to know and you to find out, he said with a big grin. The rest of the audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.